interested in joining the YPN. Oh, and we're recording. Everyone approve the recording. So my next mention is that our affiliate sponsor for this month's UnMeeting is Justin Mead with Homebridge. If you are wearing green today or sporting green in any capacity, at the end of the UnMeeting, Arlo will be drawing a random raffle, and the winner of the raffle will win a $25 gift card from Justin. Justin, do you want to talk for a minute at all? Any words?
I'll keep it brief. I want to give as much time here to our all-stars we have, but I'm Justin Mead. I know most of you. If we haven't met, reach out. I'd love to meet you, show you how I can help you close more business. Otherwise, let's give it to these guys.
Perfect. Thank you, Justin. My next couple points, we would not be able to do this without Arlo, Lindsay, and Mike, the staff at NVRA. As the YPN committee, I want to speak on everyone's behalf and say we are so grateful for your support, your assistance, and your attendance at our biweekly meetings. Mike, on behalf of the YPN, thank you so much for all of your support to the group. You've been inspirational. You have given us resources and tools that we have not had before, and it has really helped the committee to further grow in our efforts to bring the realtor and affiliate communities together. So thank you, Mike. We will miss you going forward.
Thanks, Marie. By the way, I couldn't say this, but this is always my favorite group to hang out with. So
we love it. All right. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce the panelists and read their bios that they gave us, and then I'll introduce the first question. And then panelists, we'd like to start with Brian Boardman, and then we can go to Kara or Brian, whoever, but we figured we'd start with Brian and then bounce around to the rest of you for the question. So to introduce Brian Boardman, Brian has been in real estate for almost 30 years. He started his career when he moved back to Burlington after a 10-year career on Wall Street, which is incredible. Though he loves sales, and that is his full-time job, Brian and his business partner, Leslie McKenzie, have grown Coldwell Banker, Hickok, and Boardman from a small 12-person organization in 1992 to over 100 agents and employees today. It is consistently the #1 real estate company in Chittenden County, recognized nationally as one of the top 50 real estate companies in the Coldwell Banker organization with over 2,500 offices. Brian's motto is, "It's all about the service and commitment before and after the sale." So Brian, we are so happy to have you. My next introduction is going to be Kara. Kara, I have a really hard time saying your last name, so I'm not going to butcher it. So Kara is a native Vermonter and University of Vermont grad. Her real estate career began in 2007 with Century 21 Jack Associates, where she worked for a decade before co-founding Vermont Real Estate Company in 2016. And we are very glad to have you, Kara, today to answer some of our questions. And last but not least is Brian Armstrong, who, when we asked for only 1 or 2 sentences, said that that would be impossible without sounding quite pompous. Brian Armstrong.
All right.
I hope you cut it down.
I had to say it, Brian. You put in the email.
I mean, I said 2 sentences.
Brian Armstrong is a serial entrepreneur who is passionate about everything real estate and helping both consumers and real estate professionals further their respective goals. Embracing the philosophy of servant leadership, Brian enjoys bringing value to those he serves each and every day, be it through real estate or serving copious amounts of smoked meats to those that he serves in his leadership roles, which is delicious. So let's get into our first panelist question. Brian Boardman, if you would be willing to start, our first question is, what is one piece of advice or knowledge that you wish that you had known when you first got into the business?
There you go. Well, it's great to be here with these other 2 market leaders to give our thoughts and advice. You know, I think the biggest thing when I joined, started real estate was, and again, I was in a small firm, you know, I sort of went at it. They gave me a desk, they gave me a phone, and there wasn't really a mentoring program, a training program per se. This was 30 years ago. And, you know, I didn't really reach out for help. I didn't ask people how to do things. I just sort of thought I was supposed to do it on my own. And coming from Wall Street, that's sort of the way it was. So I had that experience of you just sort of you just went full head of, full steam ahead, and you didn't ask for advice and or for coaching, mentoring. And I think that's changed now. I mean, all these larger firms, thank God, have mentoring programs, training programs, and it's really important because, again, after you've taken the test, and a lot of this is common knowledge, it's the skill set of selling and the professionalism, the ethics, and the morals involved, which is almost more important, as important. So I do think I wish I'd asked for more help early on. I did get there, and asking to tag along with other agents. Again, I didn't have a mentor to sort of follow. Just reaching out to other agents. Can I come along on a listing call? Can I come on that showing? Can I do the tour with you? Just sit in the back seat, be quiet. And I started to do that, but I should have done it sooner. And that really helped me. And going with different agents. Everybody has their own style. Some are more aggressive. Some, it's really nice to work with different people as a new agent to get their different styles. And there's no right or wrong, but I think I sort of grabbed what I like from these different agents. Their persona, the way they presented things. I think that was really important. And then I think the other thing too, I not being really busy. I don't think I did a good job qualifying sellers or buyers. I wanted them in my car so bad. I'd washed it, I'd vacuumed it, I'd cleaned it. So I just wanted someone in the car. And but I think in doing injustice to my client or customer and myself was to qualify them more and more, even just, and I've done that, now I'm really good about, reading between the lines, playing the devil's advocate. Again, buyers are liars. They may think they know what they want, but when you really sit with them for a half an hour before you get in the car, you can really read between the lines and get a sense, maybe that if it's a couple, they're not on the same page, maybe what their perception is of what's available out in Vermont. Is the old beautiful Victorian on a quiet side road in the neighborhood? Well, the 100-year-old Victorians are not in a cul-de-sac at the end of a. So I think educating them before you get in the car and educating yourself on their needs, their wishes, whether they're realistic in their price point for what they're looking for, I think is really important. And I think, with that, I do think hooking up with the right mentor. And again, if your company connects you with someone, it's just human nature. Sometimes you don't click, to just go back to management or your staff, and asking for a new connection or a new person is the right thing to do. And, maybe your mentor has just gotten busy really quickly and doesn't have time to sort of mentor you, or it's just not their style. But I think it's key that you connect with the right person. Jared's a perfect example in my office. He's very fortunate to have a fabulous mentor, and he has blossomed as a real estate agent because of it. Just a side note.
But I guess
On that, I'm done.
Are you his mentor?
Yes.
I don't know if there's enough room for both of our egos in this room.
Oh, boy.
On that note-
I should have been in the middle.
I know. We should switch.
His humility is my favorite part of working with him.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Karen?
Okay, I'm up. All right, so it's kind of cool to be sitting in this room because I actually got started in real estate with this gentleman over here, Brian Armstrong. He was the sales leader at Century 21 when I started with Century 21 Jack Associates, which is now Berkshire Hathaway Vermont Realty Group. But Brian was sales manager, and he's the one who actually signed me up, signed me on. So that's great, and I learned a ton from Brian. I was very lucky to work with him. And we still talk, and I still would call him for, today if I had a question, which is great. A couple things I would say, looking back, my biggest thing, just seeing that we're right around tax time, is that you put aside that money for your taxes, because you're all getting paid a large check. And if you don't put aside a certain percentage of that, it's going to be really difficult to give that money away come April. And it takes years of practicing giving away that money to actually be okay with it and start making those quarterly payments. At first, it really stinks, and then over the years, you just start making the quarterly payments, and it's a lot easier that way. So I would say just get started that way right now, off the bat. When you get your paychecks, send in half of it or stuff half of it in an account where you can save it for taxes. And I think piggybacking on some of the things that Brian just mentioned, you know, I get calls from, we have 23 agents, and I get calls all day long, every day, from agents, newer agents and veteran agents with questions. And so I feel like my job kind of is just answering questions throughout the day. And a lot of the newer agents have a really hard time having those hard conversations with buyers. They ask me, you know, how do I talk to the buyer about putting in a more aggressive offer? Or how do I talk to the buyer because it doesn't seem like this buyer is, you know, knows what they want, and, you know, they're scared to have those conversations with the buyer. But, you know, my advice there is that for you to do your job, you need to have those conversations with the buyer. You need to have the tough conversations that, you know, get to the nitty gritty and figure out what they really want and what, you know, what motivates them, what's holding them back. Because if you don't, then you're not going to be able to do the best job for them. You know, we're all kind of in the hospitality business, right? So it's always customer is right, client is right. But you still need to be able to have open and honest, polite conversations with your customers and clients to make sure that you're able to provide them with the best quality service. And then let's see if there's anything else. That's kind of where, those were my 2 points.
Excellent. And thank you both and everybody who's attended. You know, what's interesting is because I talk too much, I try to really think about how to answer this succinctly. And a wise attorney, you probably remember Tom Heilman. A wise attorney once said to me, for better, something effective, for better or for worse in society, we live and die our words. So if I had one piece of information to, you know, recommend to any newer agent in the business or somebody who wants to take a career to the next level, is the phrase that C equals R. The conversation is the relationship. So whether it's how to have a diplomatic conversation to help buyers better improve their offers, or whether it's how, you know, I've got a world of respect for you, Anne Marie, when we have tough conversations, we can usually do so diplomatically. We have great relationships as a result. Master the art of communication, and whether that's understanding when to use profanity, when not to, how to politely tell a seller that rather than your house is overpriced, the market appears to be disagreeing with your pricing strategy. You know, to also understanding the DISC personality profile so that we can be an honest chameleon, honest so we can sleep well at night, but a chameleon so that people that we're speaking with can understand the message in a way that is most likely to help them further their respective goals. I'm a copious listener of books, and I recommend anybody in this meeting today, pick up the book, Fierce Conversations. It's a dry book, but it's a powerful book. Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, who's an international former lead hostage negotiator, breaks down FBI tactics for, you know, hostage negotiations, and many other, you know, plethora of other books that will really help you master the art of communication, which will strengthen your relationships and your ability to thrive in any market. Thank you. Potentially next question. If I'm moving too far, Marie, let me know. But I would probably sum it up. What is, you know, one advice to give to any agent in this market is the Jim Rohn quote: "Don't wish it were easier, wish you were better." So whether that's better at your prospecting, better at your follow-up, better at your lead gen, better at staying relationships, kites fly highest against the wind. The market we're in is going to separate the order takers from the hustlers in the best phrase. There's talks of recession coming, interest rates rising. And while that's going to make it tougher for some are going to be wired to thrive in that business.
Incredible. Thank you, Brian. So that does lead us into the next question. What is one piece of advice that you would give to an agent entering into the current real estate market today? And I think if we go in the same order, Brian, Kara, Brian, that would be great.
Yeah. You know, I think from the start of a career, I think is, you know, your reputation, sort of what Brian alluded to, your reputation is it. And I mean, again, trying to put ego aside, I mean, I do think I have an impeccable reputation in this community because I'm very transparent and I'm very candid. And, you know, I think if you're looking just for the sale, you know, again, and I think as a new agent, I think we've all been there. You're strapped for money, you're on commission, you've given up maybe a salary job, and all you need to do is close that first deal or second deal or put a few under your belt. But I have found I've really, and I have two examples where playing the devil, like when I'm out with people as a buyer's agent, you know, playing the devil's advocate, questioning, you know, it's very easy for buyers to get emotional looking at a house that reminds them of grandma's house. It's just like the house they grew up in, positive, negative, whatever. But I love to play the devil's advocate. You know, do you think this, you know, is this too much land for you? You know, you live in a high rise in Manhattan and you have a, you know, you have a GC in your basement, you know, you have a caretaker, you don't own a toolbox and you're looking at a 100-year-old house in Jericho that's on a septic and well and needs work. Their perception of, you know, of buying a place in Vermont is the old farmhouse, but that may not be the best fit for them. It's ultimately the decision. But I love to play the devil's advocate or ask people to humor me. You know, I'll go show them a few, we've looked at a few old homes, that's what you want. Can I just show you one or two other properties in the same price range? They may be reproductions or something, you know, something that fits some of their criteria, but it's outside their box that they're in. And I've had people 10 and 20 years later, when they call to say, I want you to work with my kid, you were so transparent and you made us think outside the box. You knew more what we wanted than we did, you know, and I wasn't just there for the close. I was there for a long-term relationship with those people. I literally just met a financial advisor yesterday, and he said, you know, when we bought with you 20 years ago, he said, I remember you questioning, you know, the agent was pitching it at the third floor, you know, all these promising you could go up to the third floor, you could do this and that. And there were height restrictions and all sorts of things in that area of town. And I was questioning all these things, and I really, they didn't buy that house. And he said, you're the first real estate agent I've worked with where I've said, I want to write an offer. And I said, why don't you sleep on it? It was a very different market. Why don't you sleep on it? It's Wednesday. Maybe we'll look at a few other houses. I'll let the agent know you have interest. We'll look at a few houses on Friday. And if you want to circle back, but they bought another house and they were just so thrilled that I sort of told them to sleep on it, think about it. And, you know, I think that's building a relationship for life and getting you know, a client for life, as opposed to just getting the deal done. And that's served me really well. And, you know, I think that's definitely one of the things I've really used that's been successful for me to grow my business.
Yeah, those are all great points. So piggybacking a little bit on what Brian said again, I think one of the things that I always, you know, I tell myself, I tell other agents, is you can't want it more than the client, right? So exactly what he just said, you cannot look at, you never want to go into a showing or anything looking at what you're going to make. I don't even look at the commission number. Yes, I pop it into the contract, but like, it's not something that factors into my relationship with the client at all. I'm lucky enough, and as are these two gentlemen here, to most of my business is people, past clients or referrals from past clients. I almost every person I work with is someone I already worked with or know through some, you know, sphere of influence. So I feel super fortunate to be in that place. And I only got there after, you know, 15 years of doing this. And I'm the type of person that lives, breathes, drinks. I'm a workaholic. All I do is real estate. 24 hours a day. You can find me at 2 a.m. on my cell phone, lying in bed with my 9-month-old next to me. I work all the time. I had a baby, my second child, last summer in June. He came 3 weeks early. I had just listed a property in St. George, and all offers were due the day that he was cut out of me. Sorry, that's a little graphic, but yeah. So I had a C-section.
Okay,
I
you're cut off.
had to go into the hospital at 1 a.m. He came out at 1. I had to go through those offers. They were, and help my seller pick one by 5 o'clock. They didn't even know I was in the hospital, right? Like, that's how committed I feel I am to this job. And I'm not telling any of you to take it that far, because I think it's like a little bit of an unhealthy work-life balance. But I think in regard to this market, the devil is in the details, okay? Because there are high emotions, crazy pricing. What's going on right now, you know, is I think hasn't been seen by me specifically, or probably a lot of people in this building. And it's really, really challenging, right? So buyers are constantly asking me, what should I make for an offer, you know? And the prices right now are prices we've never seen before. And the offers are offers we've never seen before. And so when you're going in with an offer and they're saying, like, what price do I need to get this? And I'm like, well, here's the comps, here's the stuff that's sold, but we can't even look at that, right? Because it's going to go so much further over what the asking price is. And so I tell them, like, my piece of advice is I give them the comps, I show them, you know, and I give them an idea of where I think I would be. But I say, ultimately, this is going to be a decision that you're going to make. It's probably going to be an emotional decision because that's where we're at. We're not looking at actual numbers or, you know, actual comparables. And you need to be comfortable that you won't regret it if you get it. And that if someone else pays $2,000 more, you're not going to be upset that you lost it. It's got to be a number that is, you know, that you're okay with walking away from, you know, if someone else goes a little bit higher, or that, you know, you feel like tomorrow you're not going to regret that you just went $50,000, $60,000, $100,000 over the asking price on this house. So it's a really challenging market. And then the other part to that is you really have to manage your clients' expectations. You have to explain things 3-4 times over. You need to say it in your conversation with them, but you also need to write it in an email, okay, to prove that you said it to them, because this process is confusing, right? We do it, all of us do it every day. So everything I'm saying, everything you guys are saying to your clients is like, it comes out of your mouth like second nature. But to them, to clients who maybe it's their first, second, third home, whatever, they don't do it every day. So they're not used to it. And, you know, they may have misheard or not understood something you said and not asked a question. So you really need to make sure that you are writing down everything you're telling them, so that you're covering yourself essentially, and you're giving them another opportunity to absorb that knowledge, because this is all about educating our clients on what's going on so that they can make the decision. And ultimately down the road, they're not like in the car with a voodoo doll stabbing your face because, you know, you led them down the path of someplace they didn't want to be. So I think, you know, I don't know if I learned this from Brian, but something I'm always telling my new agents is, you know, you meet your clients and you're either, like Brian said, you're either going to jive with them or not. Not every client is for every agent, and that is okay. You know, it's a two-way street. But the key to being successful in this business is for people to know you, like you, and trust you. And trust, I think, is the biggest thing. And, you know, the most impactful thing I think you can have with a client is their trust. And so with that, I'll hand it over to Brian.
Well, just
But wait. Can we just get a promise from Brian that you will not try to one-up her example of
no,
working hard?
I was going to support. No,
He won't.
I do
He's
not
got a
wanna
better
hear it.
balance than me.
I will challenge. I've got snowboarding in my calendar every Friday mornings.
Yeah.
The teams know that I'm at my version of church, AKA Snow Mountain Resort. And I feel guilty candidly sometimes when I go, but then when I'm up there,
Yeah,
it's
healthy.
all the recharge that I need.
Yeah.
You know, and so one thing with humor, you know, that I think both Brian and Carol will appreciate. I think the follow-up in writing is key, especially if you have buyers or first-time home buyers waiving home inspections. A quick little email afterwards, hey, Brian, can absolutely understand. I am going to draft the offer without the inspection as you requested if you change your mind. And one little quip on a model or dialogue track. One of the best lines that I've heard or models in multiple offer situations is, Kara, at what price would you be okay seeing somebody else's car in that driveway?
Right.
And then ask it and go up, ask it and go up. It's a great way to tackle it. You know, so if my answer seems a bit ethereal or a bird's eye view, I've come to believe that our greatest challenge is ourselves. I started in the mortgage business. The first 2 weeks, interest rates went from 9.5 to 10. Now, most of you in this, you know, Zoom can't even fathom an interest rate above 5.5, let alone 9.5. So I'd say, you know, a few things. One, have a clear and articulated big why. One of the most common denominators I see with excellent professionals who don't seem to have a life worth living or aren't fulfilled is they aren't clear where they want to be in 3 to 5 years, personally, professionally, financially, the relationships with their family. And I encourage anybody to sit down and map that out. Very candidly, I lost my wife to cancer under 6 years ago, or just about. I sat down within 2 weeks and rewrote that future self. So I have the clarity to carry on and know what I had to do to get where I want to go. Then I would commit to 6 personal perspectives. One is self-mastery, conversation, is the relationship, your mood, your energy, where your strengths are, understand the market, understanding listing processes, shadows, you know, mentors, like Brian said, get different mentors. Recognize the 80-20 principle. 20% of our activities lead to 80% of our results. I think one of the common failings in our industry is we don't come to peace with lead generation. Most of us don't love it. And I would agree that probably the three of us in this room can do 85 to 95% of our business from sphere of influence, past repeat referrals, but we didn't get that opportunity without paying the time in to do lead generation. Move from entrepreneurial to purposeful, meaning pick up the phone and you just start swinging it to try to get listings, or do you study the people who really rock it, what they say, what their systems are, and go from there? And be learning based, meaning soak up tons of books. I cut the cable cord about 6 years ago. I probably listened to 15 to 20 books a year, and a lot of it's on habits, it's on communication, podcasts. And so just really be learning based. The other thing I would probably say, remove limiting beliefs. Like one of my regrets, I think I should have set bigger goals. I've got my hands in 5 to 7 companies. I think they're amazing individuals and people. Had I realized what I could do, I would have set bigger goals previously. And I think the last thing, be accountable to yourself, to your clients, to your friendly competitors, for the results, for the expectations, for what you say you're going to do. And I think if you do those things, you can have an amazing, amazing career. We've got a phenomenal industry. We come and go as we please. We help people start the next great chapters of their lives. We get information on apartment buildings before they hit the market to buy them. It's a phenomenal business. It's just not easy.
Mhm.
That's incredible. You guys have offered some really, really great advice that I heard getting into the market. I'm sure a lot of people here have heard it, and it's a great reminder. And I'm sure for some people here, it's a new piece of advice. And there's even some stuff that you guys had mentioned that I have not heard that I learned as well. So all three of you, thank you. So I wanted to open it up. We probably have time for 3 or so questions. If anyone has any specific questions for Kara, Brian, or Brian, you can raise your hand on Zoom, or I would prefer if you raise your hand because it's hard for me to see who's unmuting themselves.
So if there's no questions, we either rocked it or we bombed it. That's one of the-
I don't know how to raise my hand, but I've got a question.
Yeah, Justin.
We're on move.
And I'm not a realtor, obviously, but if I was, something I see a lot with new realtors, and I don't think there's a ton of new realtors here, but I think this would still be advantageous, is people get stuck with buyers who schedule or want to schedule 20 closings, in a matter of 2 or 3 weeks. And then that newer agent ends up doing all of them. How would you recommend somebody handle that to kind of try to dial in that buyer's, I guess, expectations and what they really want, so that you can do like 2 or 3 solid showings rather than a million that are taking a bunch of your time up?
I'll run with that one if you guys are comfortable with it. I'd say first and foremost, picking up on what Karen and Brian said, I would say get to know them and their goals at a very high level. And I say this with love and respect. Get to know their goals so well that you can reach up in their rib cage and give their heart a little squeeze with love. And then find a way to help reflect with them and ask them questions. There's a phrase that burned in my skull very candidly from Jack Russell. I think it was, if they author it, they will defend it. If you author it, they will doubt it. Now, if Carol said, hey, I don't want to ever buy a ranch, and Brian, tomorrow I'd love for you to drive me to Springfield, Vermont, and show me a ranch, I might just say, hey, Kara, can you help me understand this? When we first got together, you said you wouldn't like a ranch because of X, X, and Y. Now, has something changed? Am I not listening or something? Because if I just said, Kara, that's absolutely ridiculous. I don't want to drive 2 hours to show you a ranch. She said, you're never going to buy one. She's going to call Brian Boardman, and he's going to show her the house by helping her reflect on her goals. So don't tell them, ask them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is really challenging right now because of the limited inventory. Buyers are kind of grasping and looking at things that aren't ideal for them, right? So, and that's kind of also something that we've been having to tell them, that maybe they're going to have to settle in some way. If they want to get into something, they're not going to get X, Y, and Z on their list. I get exactly what Brian says all the time. I've got clients will say, I don't want to raise ranch, or I need to have a garage. So echoing back to them exactly what they've said is super important. It also lets them feel heard which is very important. You know, recently in my office, we had a buyer who called in and asked to speak to me, wanted to get reassigned to a new agent. She had been working with an agent and she felt like, you know, they weren't listening to what she wanted. And so she had great things to say about this agent, but said like ultimately it wasn't a good fit. That happens and it's okay. But what this buyer wanted was to feel heard, right? So she read through the text string that she had with this agent, and it was fine. The agent did nothing wrong. It was about a property that he had scheduled a tour to see in Fairfield, and this buyer was great. She went out and she did what I love buyers to do. She drove by it ahead of time, and she didn't like it. So she texted him and said, "I don't like the property, cancel the showing." And he said, and you know, he responded, "Okay, was it too far?" He had already told her it was going to be too far. And she wrote back and said something about, yes, it was too far, and went on a little bit like, but it was a dead end sentence. Like there was no question. And she was upset because she didn't get a response to that. It was a little bit eye-opening to me because I might have not responded to that personally. Like there was no follow-up question there. It was dead. But the buyer was emotional and she had been searching. She was living in a not great situation with her family. They had a healthy budget, but couldn't find anything. And she just wanted to be heard and for him to write back and acknowledge what she said. And because that didn't happen, she wanted a reassignment. And so it does seem very trivial. And, you know, but ultimately we reassigned her. We got her under contract on something. But you know, buyers, clients, anyone, they just want to feel heard. So, you know, going over again with them, you know, what their list of wants and needs are. And then if they bring a property that doesn't fit, you know, those, making sure you discuss that before you go, read the listing sheet, make sure you're knowledgeable about the listing sheet, and then going to them and saying, okay, great. We can definitely do that because, you know, every time I get someone who wants to see something that's far away, I'm like, I don't want to go, but then I'm like, okay, I'll go. But like, let's make sure that these things are going to be okay before we do that.
Yeah. You know, it's amazing how little, even before this last 2 years, how little we show compared to, again, when we all started, you know, you'd be Friday afternoon, all day Saturday and Sunday, you know, you'd have maybe 5 or 10 tours on Friday, 10 or 15, and, you know, you'd have to, all of a sudden they'd realize their price range up to 5 isn't going to work. You'd drop them for lunch, run to the office to print out new listings and try to make appointments because their whole, you know, realize these are 700 to 900, they can afford it. And what a weekend that was. I mean, you couldn't even talk by Sunday night, having 2 people in your car for a total of 20 hours.
Thank God we don't have to have people in the car anymore.
But
Like that.
but
I had to keep it
and I
simple.
missed that. I really did feel like that's where, you know, anytime someone wants to take their own car, I'm like, I'd really like you to be in my car. I want to hear their conversation about every property.
Yeah.
I want to hear who wears the pants, who has stronger opinions on the house, who, you know, is the land more important? I mean, back to your point, you know, I question people when we meet, what's more important, the land or the house? Because if that land is important, they want long distance vistas, they want to be private and treed, they want whatever, a hillside sloping, you know, they can look at any house because you can change the house. But if they're looking to reproduce grandma's Victorian with 3 fireplaces that they came to every Christmas, then that's more important. The old charming house is going to be more important than the lot and land. So part of that goes back to our doing your due diligence up front and questioning them when they, you know, again, when you send them the ranch qualified, this lot is exactly what you've described. It sits on a hill. It has long distance vistas. It backs up to common land. It's got a maple grove, whatever. And, you know, I know it's a ranch that can be, you know, that can be changed, but the site might be really appealing to you. And, you know, if you do it once and they respond, the house doesn't work, we don't want ranches, acknowledge it. You tried, you pushed the envelope with them, you tried to make them think outside the box, and now you know they're not gonna, that's just not gonna work for them. So, you know, a lot of it's just prep work and listening.
That 2 things right there that I just heard is key. One is active listening is one of the best negotiation tactics there is. Active listening. So I'll ask the question, are you listening or are you waiting to speak? And then the second thing I would say, Kara, you picked up on it, knowing back to C equals R, knowing when to text, knowing when to pick up the phone. I've heard complaints from people that say they get a text, sorry that you didn't get the offer. Yeah, you're dealing with a high S. I'd be calling that person up and say, hey, I really apologize if this happened. Just, keep your head up, all that stuff. So sorry I went off there, but those two factors were key.
Awesome. Jeremy, what is your question?
Hey guys, my name's Jeremy Collins. I've been in real estate for about 3.5 years here. And one of the things that kind of has always been an issue with me is kind of keeping motivation up, especially going into year 2 into 3, and 3 into 4. At being long-term real estate agents like you guys are, how did you manage that emotional roller coaster that is real estate going into the first few years after you've done it?
Total fear of failure.
Yeah.
I just pick that phone up, I pick that phone up, I pick that phone up. If
Yeah.
I had nothing on my schedule, I was on that phone or walking downtown I know we don't do it anymore, handing cards, going to law firms and dropping off, our brochures we had back then. Going to the country club for lunch, even though probably couldn't afford it. Tagging along, if I wasn't a member, I'd ask someone to take me to lunch at their country club and try to network with people. I mean, it's network, your face and your name has to be out there. And if you have downtime, that's the opportunity to get your face and name out there. And, there's nothing better. And when I was first listing properties, I had no history, but I remember going on a few listing calls and I just would say to people, I don't have one listing. I've sold 2 houses. I am hungry. My wife has 2 kids. We have a house. I have to succeed. I'm going to be the hardest working agent you'll ever find. I need to eat and I need to pay my mortgage. I mean, do whatever it takes. And I said, I have a great office. I have a support staff behind me. I have expertise, long longevity in my office. They can help me. They're going to help me on pricing and value, but I will be the hardest working agent. And wouldn't that be better for you than the agent down the street that has 22 listings? Do you think she's going to give the same attention to you that I do? I mean, it's an angle that may not always work, but let me tell you, they heard from me twice a day. I was there all the time, taking pictures, updating the pictures. I was hustling, and that's.
Jeremy, my 2 cents, am I okay to go ahead?
No, you go ahead.
So there's a phenomenal book, Simon Sinek's Start With Why, and he'll talk about it from a company perspective. But one of his arguments is if you have a powerful enough why, it will survive any how. So literally, and these guys can take a look at it if they want, I just pulled up my future self. And it's that exercise that I talked about where's my life, where I want to be in 5 years, 3 to 5 years, physically, spiritually, socially, financially, with my family, my businesses. And feel free if anybody wants to email me, barmstrong@kw. I'll send you a quick exercise on how to do that, but make sure the future you're pursuing is so vibrant and so worthwhile that every day you look at that, you bare your teeth at the dragons between you and that goal. That's what my recommendation would be, and it sounds simple, but I probably look at mine 3 to 5 days a week. And with humor, I think the 3 of us can probably agree that in our positions, fill in the blank flows uphill at an alarming rate. So when the shit's hitting the fan, sorry guys, have that powerful why and know what it is. So it just seems like one more small down payment on your success. My first future self, I was 23, re-engineered how many apartment buildings I was going to buy to afford a life of 2 to 4 destination vacations a year, and literally engineered it. And then I went after it.
Yeah. I mean, I think to both of those points, this is a job where you need to get up and grind, right? Like you got to be looking at that pipeline constantly. And, I even look at it now, right? And I'm constantly seeing what do I have lined up, what's coming. This is the best job in the world. I love this job. We are so lucky that we get to do what we do, right? We get to work with the best clients. We help people, start new lives and end chapters of their lives. We get to meet people, we get to hear their stories, we get to help them in ways that are very special. And I just think that if you're going to be a realtor, first you have the potential to make a ton of money. And once you start making good money, you're going to like it, and you're going to want to make more and more, and you're not ever going to want to make less. So that's one thing, but I really do think, and my biggest thing here is people get into this job and they think it's like, here's a nice flexible job. It's not, if you're gonna do well in it, it's not that flexible. You need to work and get up every single day. And like these two gentlemen said, you are constantly making calls. I remember door knocking, doing whatever it took, open houses, taking other people's clients, taking referrals, whatever I had to do to get a deal under contract when I started. So I just think, it is a lot of hard work, and just looking at that, the harder you work, the better you're going to get at it. And, ultimately over time, it'll get easier.
Jeremy,
Awesome.
one other thing I just thought of is, not everybody, there's people that are really made to be a buyer's agent, and there's all sorts of different buyer's agents. There's younger agents coming in to possibly take over someone's business, but it gets them up and running much quicker. There's some people that are coming in, they're part-time agents. They might still have to, have a job, evening, waiting tables, bartending, whatever. And, they just can't sort of embrace a full-time career on their own. They come in as a buyer's agent and work their way into a full-time job. But, you generally will get, instant leads or some good leads from your, your team leader. So there's other ways to look at it too. And again, a lot of buyer's agents, people with young kids, a buyer's agent's perfect for them. Their job is more predictable. It may not be 9 to 5, but it's I think a whole lot easier to schedule as a buyer's agent for a team. Again, when your kids are little, and then you can transition to being your own agent, having your own team, whatever. But there's nothing wrong with, again, it's a nice way to jumpstart a career if you're struggling in the beginning. And a lot of it's just people need some confidence and some stuff, some sales under their belt and to have some experience. So
Jeremy, you got a great personality. You're Garrett, you're out there. If you're in there 2 years, I'm telling you, somewhere 3 to 5 is where I started to see the repeat referral. One other thing I'll throw out, up until 5 or 6 years ago, I had a D- database. It's when I stepped back into the position of CEO of KW that I really worked on creating my database. And that generates probably 20 to 30 transactions a year just by doing a 33 touch system. Dripping on newsletters, events, stuff like that. So hang the hell in there.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Brian Boardman, I absolutely love how you said total fear of failure as like the very first thing out of your mouth to answer Jeremy's question. I think that is pretty relevant for a lot of people in this Zoom room. So thank you for addressing that. And I think we're out of time for questions. As the UnMeeting crew, we like to keep these between 45 to 60 minutes max because we want to respect everyone's time. And that's the point of an UnMeeting, is that we're not really having a meeting, we're just having a good time. So I do want to mention, Kara, one thing that you said is one of the very first things that you said, I think, was that you have a great relationship. You still call the Bryans and talk to them regularly. And that is the goal of the YPN. So while we're out of time for questions, I want to mention to everyone in this room that all 3 of these people who are our panelists, I'm sure would be willing to take some time with any one of you to answer any additional questions that you might have. And I'm sure in addition to the 3 panelists, other people in this room are happy to collaborate and have conversation and
absolutely
grab a cup of coffee. So with that, I think I'm going to turn it over, Mike or Arlo, for the raffle.
Hello.
I can take it. Mike, can you allow me to share the screen?
No.
Please.
My goal is to make your life as difficult as I can in the short time I have left. There you go. All right.
Okay. Here we go. Can you see the wheel?
Not yet.
It's now starting up. Yep.
All right. Let me shuffle and then, okay, I'm going to click it and here we go. Bum, bum, bum.
Clever is that?
Great.
I've never seen that.
That is fun.
It didn't spin enough.
Oh, Andrea, are you wearing green?
I can embarrass her. I was 5 years old. She babysat me for the week. I remember
Is
her
she
brushing
on?
over my teeth.
Andrea's on, I think.
She was earlier.
Yeah,
She,
she's muted.
Andrea Champagne, are you with us? Maybe. Andrea. can you
do
hear
I
us?
do it again?
She's probably on her phone.
Yeah.
All right, well, her camera's been off, so I don't know if she's wearing green. So I hope she's not offended, but I'm going to say, Andrea, you're not going to win the prize today.
Okay, again, here we go.
She's on.
She's back on.
Oh no.
I got a green mug.
There you go.
Just one. Hey,
Hi, Andrea.
all right. Thanks, guys.
Perfect. Okay, so John, congratulations. Justin, John, get in touch. I don't know. Do you need communication, contact information? I can help with
I'll
that.
figure it out, I'm
I
sure.
want to see the green mug.
Where's the green?
Where's the green mug?
Well, I do
Oh,
see
yeah.
Andrea back. now.
For my brother and partner in crime here.
Nice.
Andrea is on, by the way.
I see Andrea now. Andrea, are you wearing green? Maybe I'll contribute so that there's some
Nope,
fairness.
too late. Too late.
Okay.
I won.
Sorry, Andrea, your camera was off. One.
It's all okay.
Perfect. All right. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us at the YPN UnMeeting. If you're interested in joining the YPN, again, we are always looking for members. We are meeting this week on Friday morning at 9:30. My email was posted in the chat at some point. If you need to get in touch with me, Mike knows how, or you can find me easily. So, and thank you to our panelists. You guys were
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
We're gonna,
you.
we hope it's okay with you. We did record this because I had a few people who signed up who really wanted to see this and they couldn't. So if it's all right with you, we're gonna make this, email this recording to the list or a link to the people on this call.
Disclose I swore twice before they listened.
I don't think that's unusual for a YPN meeting. I just don't.
Okay.
So.
Well, it's certainly not unusual for him.
That is true. That is very true.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah.
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 I know. I saw you like wrote in. You're like, I'm gonna